Attention! All things shared in this video are simply the opinions of the Unexplained files. The following footage is not tampered with, and all of the events and reactions are unplanned and genuine.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Unexplained Files, episode 2 of our Unexplained Files podcast. And this one, I think, is going to be a pretty good one. We're going to be talking about cryptids, but mostly dogmen and hound-related creatures for this one. So I'm going to pass this one mostly over to you because I think this is your area of expertise rather than mine.
Dogman crazy.
Dogman crazy. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Don't even know. It's weird doing these because it's not like we have a set script, is it? It's just like we choose a topic we
rough
like,
ideas
and then
down.
We.
I mean, I could
talk about them.
I can set us off because even just thinking about Dogman, the first thing that comes to mind is, I think obviously I'm 26 now, and you came over here when I was about 15, so
Something
11
like that,
years
yeah.
ago, 10, 11 years ago now, and one of the first things I learned about you is this obsession with Dogman, and like over the years it pervades everywhere, like in different elements. Obviously, you love some of your favourite films, the American Werewolf in London.
I've got
We've
a T-shirt on today.
Yeah, we've got a Dogman over it. It's all over the place, but it's never like werewolves. It's specifically Dogman, and that was the first thing I had to learn. There is a difference, and in that world where people are talking about hound-like creatures, there's like people who've got different feelings on whether these are people that transform into beasts or whether these are just a different type of beasts that aren't documented. That's what fascinates me. That's what I'm interested. And I remember many years you told me about like radio shows you'd listen to, like Dogman encounters, where people would go out and they'd come on the show and tell people about their experiences.
Listen to that.
Yeah, I'd never heard that was even a thing before. I mean, I'm not surprised it's out there, but
Because that's something Dawn asked, and she was
Yeah.
like, "What's the difference between a werewolf and Dogman?"
yeah.
And apparently, it's just like obviously a werewolf's like a person that would transform into like
A
werewolf
wolf creature. Yeah.
And then like a dogman is something.
Just
It's like
permanently.
it's that's a creature that's like it 24/7.
Because obviously I think everyone's heard of werewolves, House of Fire, but
Yeah.
but Dogman being its own thing that's out there all the time, I don't think I'd ever heard before you'd come
Yeah,
over. So I found it fascinating that there was this whole new world of like a new creature that people think is out there.
I can't even remember when I first heard about it. It's like I can't remember if it was when I was in America or what, but
Well, yeah, when I think of a werewolf, as much as I think there have been things over in the UK, when I think of a werewolf, that is one of those creatures, like the Bigfoot. It's just in the States. Like that's where most of it comes from. I think that's the same with most cryptids, but even more so with the werewolf. There's something like, obviously I think of films like fucking Teen Wolf and all that stuff, your stereotypical that howler films. But yeah, no, a Dogman or werewolf, that's very...
But it's like we were saying the other day. Remember when I said it's funny how all the folklore was in Europe and that
then
until
popped up
everyone
over there.
emigrated over to America,
Yeah.
and now it seems to
be over there.
Yeah,
Are there any like Grimm's fairy tales or werewolves in it? 'Cause I
I'd
don't know if
imagine so.
I feel like there are. Because what was that show, Grimm, which was like
Yeah.
based on like the creatures from the fairy tales? And
Because
there was
that
some,
geezer
like,
was a werewolf.
Yeah.
In there.
there are some howlers over there. Like actually, even in saying that werewolves are like an American thing, my main depiction of a werewolf that I've seen is in that show, Being Human. In the British one, where he transforms in
That's a
that
cool
one of that
looking
first
werewolf,
episodes.
no?
He's a proper cool one. I like that. That even it's very because obviously you always see the same things. It's painful and it's shit, but like that one, the way that they depicted him just trashing the house and then just going back to normal, like in the morning as if nothing had ever happened. That's a crazy thought, a crazy idea.
It is pretty cool. That's probably one of my... Because actually, look, you see a lot of the films and they're like really shit, aren't they? And it's
Yeah.
like, what the frick is that meant to be? But yeah, that's actually quite
That's
cool.
one of my favourite ones that I've seen. I do find like Dogmen and werewolves fascinating though, because if you look at vampires, there's loads of like historical, like sort of not reference for them, but like there are people that they can be based upon and like atrocities that happened that sort of spawn it, and then periods of history where there's specific fears around that one creature. But as far as I know, werewolves and dogmen, there isn't really like a set. This time was when they were scared of it, and these are the measures they took against it. I mean, I know there's your stereotypical like silver bullets and all that lot, but how much of that is just like a Hollywood thing? And I don't know.
Because wasn't that a thing back in the day? Silver was something to do with silver to cure
more than likely. I really don't know. I know. As far as I know there are certain creatures in certain folklores, like Germanic folklores, that don't like iron and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Silver, I'm sure it is out there, but what it is, I don't know.
Yeah, I've read about it in the past, but I can't remember off the top of my head what it is now. I know there's like, they talk about different types of dogman as well. Like you've got like the canine type, which would look more like an upright dog with like the hocks, where the bent back legs and then you've got like, I think they call it like a type 3, which is more like a Bigfoot type thing, with some more of a human body, still hairy and that, but it's got a snout and like claws and rather than.
I do find it fascinating that, like, obviously Bigfoot, I'm not going to say there's a lot of evidence, but there's a lot more people that believe that he's definitely out there, and it could be like a certain species of primate that we don't know. And I'm sure there are people that believe the same with dogmen, but it's just not to the same level.
Well, you've got video footage where people have supposedly filmed Bigfoot. I don't think I've ever seen anything of a werewolf apart from stupid shit you see on.
Well, yeah. And I always find it strange how. Because, I mean, we're in the world of cryptids here. It's not like you can go, dog man, don't be ridiculous. But 8 foot tall, hairy Yeti man, of course he's real, you know what I mean? But I find it weird how some things get a lot of coverage and some things don't. But I don't know if, like, the stories of werewolves and dogmen come from specific folklores, or whether they just, that idea of a creature like that has always existed in the human mind somehow. Because it's like, we've spoken about like vampires before, the fact that it's really weird that humans are constantly scared of things that look like humans, that are really good at killing humans, almost like there's something in our psyche that says if it looks like us, but it isn't us, we need to be very scared of it. Like skinwalkers, the shapeshifters that can turn into things that we don't recognise, that seems to be there. We have that uncanny valley where there's things where if it looks almost human, and the closer it looks to almost being human but not quite, like the eyes are off, or the facial features are off, or something's off, we're terrified of it. Like a deep ingrained sense of like, stay the fuck away from that, that's scary, go away. So there's like some things in history and in the way that we work that just like, you need to be worried about this. Dogman is, I don't know, it just doesn't exist like that. I can't tell if there's any countermeasures, like not countermeasures, but like crossovers in that way.
Because I know there's like long history of it, isn't there? Because you got there were 2 that spring to mind. You got like that King Lycaon who killed one of his sons and offered him to the god Zeus to see.
Yeah, that was in Greece, wasn't it? So that was like ancient world.
And that was just to test the god to see if he recognised human flesh, like if he would eat it or not. And then he cursed him by turning him into a wolf.
No.
And then there's, let me check my notes. The other one is,
sounds a bit Zeus-like, didn't it?
Yeah.
By the way, mate, bang, have a problem.
Yeah, you got the ones from ancient Greek as well, where they talk about people called cynocephali, which means dog-headed men, and apparently they lived in the mountains in India and communicated by barking.
Yeah, that's another thing, because I remember when I was on a Google or Wikipedia rabbit hole one time, because I do that occasionally, where it was like cryptids and strange creatures like mentioned throughout the medieval world, and dog-headed men do appear like a lot on those. You always get your odd like cyclops, or there's some weird ones where there's like a race of men where they've not got heads but their faces are on their chests and stuff like that. But then same with that, there's always the dog-headed men. That is always a thing. But I don't know where some people have put forward that could just be a way to insult a group of people. Saying that they bark could just be insulting their language, saying that it's primitive, and the whole dog-headed side of it could just be alluding to like a beast-like nature because they're not civilized.
Some of them might have been like where back in the day with like, I don't know whether it was the Vikings or whatever, they used to wear like the wolves' pelts on their heads and stuff like that to make them look more fierce.
Yeah, go into their berserker state.
Yeah.
Well, no, because we did speak about that. I think in the Dogman video, that's in there actually. When we did our case file on Dogman, when we visited the place where there was a supposed sighting back in the 90s,
Linton,
wasn't it? Or multiple sites in the 90s. And when we were walking back, we were talking about what could there be something of like back in the like back in like Scandinavian sort of heyday. There was a lot of people who believed in like animalistic spirits and stuff, and going into trances and stuff, or using psychedelic drugs and various things. I was going to say medicine then, but I don't want to start creating a political debate. But using psychedelic substances, and part of their trance-like state, or going into whatever like state they wanted to be in, there a lot of like iconography, the animals and like behaving like an animal, and so I do wonder what that is and how much that plays into these things. Is it like a literal physical metamorphosis, or is it more like they've got stories of people spiritually turning into it, if you will, for their trance-like state, and then people are kind of comparing their viciousness to that of a wolf, and
but then when you
twisted.
when you talk about the modern day ones, so when like I've listened to the stories on Dogman encounters, it's like people are literally
convinced they're seeing it.
And some of them sound terrifying. Like some people talk of seeing this Dogman thing that's like 13 foot tall. It's like when you stand up in this room and this ceiling's probably like 8 foot tall, and you've got like this much above you, you're like 13 feet. Like
that's ridiculous.
That just seems bizarre, but I don't know.
I mean, I know a lot of these encounters happen at night with people, and the thing is, when you're out in the forest at night, I'm sure you could be like easily led to be freaked out by something. But it makes me wonder, like, there could be a lot more out there that we don't know. And could they be confused by something else? Could there be a creature that's done that?
I suppose, like, even the grizzly bears, when they stand up, they can reach like 12 feet, can't they? So
exactly.
I suppose it's not out of the realms of possibility.
I mean, when you think of your dogman, like a stereotypical dogman with like the curved fucking back legs and the hunched over, but still massive, almost bear shaped when you think if you saw it in the dark and in front of you, like, it's kind of like, I know they're not got a massive long snout and stuff, but if they were just fucking sticking their fucking face into a tent or something, you might be like, what the fuck is that?
I remember when we went through this drive-through kind of zoo thing when I was in America, and they had these massive bisons, and they'd like huge, literally come up and put their head in. The head filled the whole window. I can imagine it would be something like that. Can you imagine that?
And I mean, if you're asleep and you've woken up in that panic as well, and it's like making roars and scratching and shit, you wouldn't know what the fuck was going on.
There's like a lot of the encounters I've heard of, it's more intimidating rather than trying to kill someone.
Right.
So there's just that, like, people say that like they do like a kind of growl thing, but they can feel it reverberating through them. So you even like kind of getting into realms of like that ultrasonic kind of sound that. But
then again, I mean, in a way, that is a bit canine-like, because when you think of packs of wolves or even just lone wolves, they do sort of stalk and try and assess the situation. But bears are also known for doing that as well. Bears don't. If like they're gonna, if there's no noise, they'll come if they smell food and they'll look, and then if you're there, they might attack you. But generally, as a rule, if you make enough noise, they don't want that. They're just like, right, cheers, no thanks. So in a way, there's kind of crossovers to that. But then, if that is the case, and it is just bears constantly happening over and over, how is this image like stayed about? Could it be something like a bear with mange, where it's like the furs come off of it, because then you can see like the skin underneath it, and that kind of, in a way, if you've got a more human-like dog man, could it be in that?
I've heard like some people say on there though, you know, where they've seen it up close and like, you know, not off in the distance behind trees and that, and they're like, it was exactly like the werewolf out of what's that bloody popular film? I can't remember what it's called now. But anyway, it's like out one of the films. So they've seen it close and
they're still convinced.
I'd be like, I can't imagine how you'd feel in that situation if you saw something like that. That would just be terrifying.
I think it'd be terrified. I think if I was one of those people, I'd be terrified, because not only you can't tell anyone. No fucker's going to believe you, and the people who are going to believe you, there's 50% chance they're a nut job, and the other 50% chance they're using you for some form of content. And as well, you might be sat there thinking, right, well, fuck, I don't know what's real anymore. Because my perception of reality is gone.
Because I can imagine, like, even if you see like an aggressive dog on the street, like, oh fuck.
Oh yeah, that's
imagine
enough.
some massive 10-foot tall thing.
Yeah,
just...
And you're in the forest as well. I
Yeah.
assume, like 9 times out of 10, because these fuckers aren't just cruising into.
Yeah. But then
street.
again, they say that there's a lot of reports that are actually in cities as well. Like surprisingly, like you get them in rural areas and stuff. So
I can't say I've ever heard of that, but that's fucking mad.
yeah.
But then how's there no footage? In like, if they're in fucking cities and rural areas, there's CCTV and like doorbell cameras and so on and so forth. This where you just see someone rummaging by a bin and then the bin just goes gets thrown off out of nowhere and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's one of them things, isn't it? It's like I want to see it myself, so I know it's real. But
yeah, but I wouldn't want to encounter the fucker.
I don't think I'd want to. Actually.
I mean, even when we were in that forest, like I was sort of thinking, man, imagine if something is out here. Even though it was the middle of the day, I was just like, oh, that'd be a bit terrifying.
See, I always wondered about when I lived with Darlene in America, because she had that big property with like the forest bit around it. I think I probably told you about these 2 occasions, but I remember the one night we were just sitting watching TV and then something just like it smashed into the front door and it was loud. It wasn't like a squirrel ran it. It was like a person ran full force into the door. The dog went fucking mental and that. And we was like, shit.
What the fuck? Someone's trying to break in.
And like, there's no access to a property. Like, you've got literally like probably 100 meters or so down a drive, and then it goes down onto a little country road, and then about a mile or so down the road is the town, and then our neighbour is on the other side, you know, probably about 40 meters away, but it's all fenced off and that, so they can't like get through.
Right.
So we was like cacking ourselves, and then eventually we got up and like looked out the door and that, but there was nothing there.
Ooh, that's weird. I mean, were there deer or anything in the area?
There's deer around, yeah.
I don't know if it could have been that.
Because imagine it like this room. You come out of a front door.
Yeah.
The garage is there, like with a side door. So the front of the garage is around that bit. So you've got the garage with the door, fenced off bit here, and then the front of the house. So it's come into this little enclosed area.
Yeah. So for something to get that much force to fucking crash into it.
And then there was another time when I was like changing the light bulb. So I was up on like a 5-6 foot ladder.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it was dark, and then suddenly in them trees I just heard like coming towards me. I literally leapt off the top of that and just ran to the house.
I mean, gone.
Yeah, proper shit. And and then obviously I came back out like a few seconds later, and there weren't nothing there. And then the only other time we had was when because we used to go up on the hill in the trees and like have a fire, and we was just having our fire, and then suddenly there was a massive fucking stick break, not like a twig, it was like and we was like, we looked at each other and she was like, yeah, we probably should go down, because she was like, she's quite spiritual and and said there was like stuff on the property, so
she's just like, yeah, let's give that a miss.
Yeah, so you know, we didn't crap ourselves and run off or anything, we just walked down and that. But
were there bears out there or no?
Nah.
So it wouldn't have been that.
No. So yeah.
It's difficult because in different parts of the States you've got so many different types of creatures. You've got bears and big cats.
There was coyotes around the area, but that would have been about the only thing.
I don't know. I mean, being out in an area like that at night, your mind's running wild. Anyway. Like, granted, you are going to be like, but what's in the area and what's this and what's that? But then that's still not going to stop you from going.
I'm not claiming it was a Bigfoot or a Dogman or anything. But whatever was running through the trees when I was there, it could have been a deer. I don't know, but like why it would have just started bolting through when I'm just standing up on a ladder. There's no one there making noise. I don't know. I don't know what it was. So
I know deers are quite skittish, but usually they need to be startled before they're going to bolt away. They tend to just be a bit otherwise.
No clue what any of that was, but because I told you we had some weird activity in that house. So
that is a bit strange, but it is very much over in the States. I can't say I've ever heard anyone have encounters like over here that I've known or spoken to.
Yeah, the only ones I know about is that one I was telling you about the other day, the South End werewolf, but there's not really any footage or photographs or anything like that of it. And then you've got one in Hull, with like East Yorkshire. I think.
I've heard about that one.
Yeah, like Old Stinker it's called, or the Beast of Barnstrom Drain, something like that. And that's been seen since the 1800s. And
it's still being seen, is it?
Yeah, on and off. I don't remember when the last sighting was, but
it's an old boy now.
yeah, unless it's a different one, because I know some people think, oh, it's the same thing, but other people think it's something else. So.
I wonder. It makes me think of when we used to live in the seaside town, Westwood Ho. That fucking made me laugh because there was that one house with the one this very strange couple. This farmer who looked suspicious, like you know in Men in Black when there's the guy who's taken over by the aliens and he's just like weirdly like stomping around, just doesn't look human. This guy was a bit like that, and wherever he went, he was always like shouting at people and having to go for no reason. And he always drove this truck around with puppies in it, just always in there. And he'd be going to the shops with like cardboard boxes, like. Bringing home like just meat and shit like that, and all of a sudden, did you say the police were over there or anything kicked off like that?
I can't remember.
I know that there was a lot of incidences where they were getting complaints and shouting and having to go at people, and they were just really fucking weird. And then, well, the wife never spoke, but he was always about looking like some sort of fucking redneck wife beater. And then all of a sudden they disappear, and the whole house gets demolished, and they just build a new one.
They've got no properties like
yeah.
that.
So we used to laugh and joke saying that they were a Dogman family who was going to the local co-op or Tesco's to get fucking meat for the Dogman.
Remember
pups.
we'd walk past sometimes and then the dogs would just start going mad in the back of the van. They'd just be parked in the van on the street, sitting in the van on their
away like in front of the house, like right next to it.
Yeah, and they'd just be sitting there on their like phone or laptop or whatever it was. Like,
just trying to scope out the nearest to see if anyone's had a Dogman sign in the area. That was funny, man. And we saw the house the other day when my son was just like, I remember that. Do you remember those lot? That was fucking weird. But that made me think of that because that was a good laugh. That was the old Dogman.
That was pretty mental, wasn't it? I'm just trying to see if I've got anything else on here.
Yeah, no, Dogman's one of those creatures where I don't necessarily think about it often, but when I'm walking through a dark forest for a video, I'm going, remember Dogman?
Be like that incident I told you about when I was walking back from the Tar Control.
Oh,
tell you what, that was hilarious, guys. But I don't remember what time it was, but it was near enough proper dark. The only way I could see any light was from where the trees were, and it was just kind of, you get that light pollution from from the lights in the sky. So I could kind of see that through the trees. And then I was walking along the Tar Control, and then suddenly I could just see this black mass in the distance, like moving, and I was like, oh. I couldn't see how big it was or what it looked like or anything. I just saw a black mass moving towards me, and I was like, oh shit. And I was like, just play it cool and just carry on walking. And I was proper crapping it, and then I looked back again and I could see it getting close, and I was like, oh man, because it was moving pretty quick. And then then like suddenly this guy just runs past me. He's like out jogging with his dog, and I was like, oh my god.
Thank God you didn't just sprint off.
Didn't have a torch or anything. He's just running in the freaking pitch black, and can you imagine me just running down there screaming? The guy would probably like run off in the other direction, like wow.
His dog would be trying to bolt at you, and he's trying to go the other way. That'd be funny as fuck.
Oh dear.
But I wonder how many other people have like seen things in the distance, and they're like, I can see it clearly, but their vision's like absolutely knackered, so that I can see it clearly, not at all, without my glasses, and then it's just mistaken for something else, or they're terrified and they just think that it's a Dogman when it's not. I don't know. I want there to be compelling evidence, or like I want there to be like one clip where, a bit like the Bigfoot, that one where he's just walking through on a stroll. I want there to be like the Dogman version of that. I need to see it.
Yeah, I've seen a proper cool looking clip, but I think it's just like I don't even know if I'd say AI generated or something, but it actually looks real, and and then you see it like it's like kind of like scouting out behind this tree, and then it like just kind of slinks off, and it's like, man, that looks proper freaky as F.
What there? I remember. It's sort of like on the tip of my tongue. This creature. It's like it's not quite a Dogman. It is a type of Dogman, but it's got a name up in Scotland where it's like a friendly one.
Oh, the Wolver.
Yeah, the Wolver, that thing.
Yeah.
That because we've heard of that as well, where it's like it doesn't want to hurt people. It's just it stays in its spot in its area.
Because from what I read about it. There's been occasions where it will catch fish and then put them on people's like windowsills, like
just like
to
a peace offering, just chilling.
And it was also said that it would help like lost travellers find their way.
Yeah, because that's an instance where.
Because there's another one as well. I think it's in Ireland, the same thing.
Because these are like instances where you've got Dogman type creatures, but they're not like vicious or.
No.
And whereas often the stereotypical case is like they're hunting and like people are scared and intimidated by it, but it's not attacked them.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder how many people have gone missing. And,
Well, when you like look at that David Paulides missing 411, it's like I wonder how many of them have encountered a dogman or something. Because what ones? Yeah, because you've got the Brazilian one, the lobisomem, or I think that's how it's pronounced. You've got the narwhal, Mexico, and then the wyvern, Scotland. So they're like all over the place. And then the two main ones that people will probably know in America, like the Michigan Dogman and the Beast of Bray Road, which I went to see when I was living there. We drove like 2.5 hours just to go to this road where there'd been a sighting.
That's sick.
And then we stayed, looked around the town throughout the day, and then we drove up and down a few times at night.
See if you could see it.
Yeah, through these like kind of cornfield roads and that, see if we could see anything. But obviously we knew we wouldn't, but it was still
exciting.
Bit fun.
I wonder whether with these like wolver type creatures, whether it's like more spirit based thing, like whether it's supposed to be a protective spirit that's out there. Because if it's in Scotland and Ireland, there's kind of that Celtic like link between the two of them. So maybe there's some sort of spiritual thing there. Whether it is, they're just like no, there's just like a peaceful dog man out there who's trying to protect people. I don't know, but it's interesting. Yeah, no, they don't tend to. Well, obviously. That's the thing, there's never like stories of like a dogman that come out and was just ripping people to pieces. It's always like, oh, I felt terrified and was stalked by it and stuff like that, but
I suppose if it did, you wouldn't hear about it.
Oh yeah, exactly. But then maybe police would find evidence of a human remains that are absolutely ripped to shreds and fucked up.
Yeah.
Like when the fucking dog down there gets a bird or anything, it fucking rips into shit and it's just everywhere.
Yeah, there have been like things like that, but no one knows if it was a dogman or whether it's just like a bear or something. Because there's a woman I watch on YouTube, like the Cryptid Huntress, I think she's called, and they were covering a case like a little while ago where some woman was mauled by saying people thought it was like a dogman or something, but
could just be a bear or anything. It's so hard to tell with dogman as well because bears are out there. Anything, if anything like a dogman was out there, people just go, it's bears, isn't it? Which is why it's more compelling when it happens over here because we don't have wolves or bears or anything. I think I looked it up. What's the most dangerous predator in the UK? And it genuinely said a badger. Yeah. So we've got badgers, which is fun. So the worst you're going to get is rabies or a scratch.
But then, like if they are about it, there's been a few reports of dogmen and Bigfoot in this country, in there. So
if they are about, then you know it's no bears and no.
But like when you go up to further up north, you do get like some massive expanses of just forestry and stuff.
Yeah.
So
go to the Lake District and see if there's anything about that. Oh, there's not really many forests out there, I don't think.
Yeah, it's weird. Yes, it is one of them things that you kind of want to see for yourself just so you can be sure that it's real, but then you don't. Yeah. Like if you could see it in a car from a distance.
Yeah. But then it'll just be like, and see the car, he'd be like, no!
Because I've even on that show, I've heard like encounters where they've chased people in their car and they're keeping up when they're doing like 60, 70 miles an hour and stuff like that. Can you imagine
when if we're driving back from some fucking fuck knows where abandoned place,
especially
we're going through the dodgy little roads, and then you just see straight in front of the car, you just wouldn't know what to do. It's like shit, that's it now.
I wonder what you'd do. You'd just sit there looking at it, wouldn't you? I think
I would. I'd be like, oh shit, turn the car off. We'd just try that. But then would the change in the light freak it out, or I don't know, or maybe the engine running would make it want to not get too close because it's freaked out by the noise. I wouldn't know what the fuck to do. That's one of those. Have you ever been in one of those scenarios where like you said earlier, there's like a dog just rabbing in front of you and you're kind of like, or an animal that's charging at you and you're kind of sitting there going, I'm just at the mercy of whatever the fuck this thing wants to do. That would be that type of situation right there.
Yeah, because really there's nothing you could do. I'm sure I could easily just smash through the window and grab you if I wanted to.
Straight through. Like Skyrim, just picking people up, tearing them apart.
Because there was that story, it was on the news and that, I think that was in Wisconsin, I can't remember, but don't even remember the dude's name, but he used to go out at night collecting like roadkill, like the deers and stuff that were on the road.
Yeah.
And this one night he'd got one of the deers, put it on his truck, and he said he was sitting in his cab filling out his paperwork, and then suddenly he felt like the truck shake a bit, and he weren't sure if it was just like a gust of wind or something.
Yeah.
But then he said it started shaking a bit finally, and he looked in the mirror and he saw this freaking Dogman type thing reaching into the thing, and he said he like took off.
Yeah.
And his ramp thing that he had in the back like got pulled out, and apparently like the deer, it grabbed the deer out and pulled that out. And then I can't remember if he went back later that night because he had to get his ramp because that was for his job. He couldn't. It was like worth a lot of money and that. But he didn't see anything again. But the deer was gone and that. And
so that was just like a fucking Dogman going to the butchers. He's like, oh, sick. There we go. I mean, I would have laughed if it had stayed in his car and the Dogman had just fucking chased it. It'd be like a fucking greyhound race, wouldn't it? That'd be funny as fuck. I mean, not for him, but
no. But yeah, I do find stories like that intriguing. But, yeah, unless you see it for yourself, it's just you're gonna be like, oh.
It's hard to believe, but you want to believe it at the same time. You know, I mean, like with Bigfoot, it's so much wider spread. But then it makes you think: if people are out there and they're seeing these things not quite clearly or in moments of panic, what's the crossover between these two creatures?
Pardon me.
That's why we do shit like that. For years, we're always like howling and doing shit. It's because of Dogman. That's why. No, but is there some crossover between these creatures that people keep seeing? Because if you think of like Bigfoot, it's always the huge, hairy, human-like creature. And then if you're saying that with Dogmen, there's like a range of how human they are. Is there people seeing the same thing? Is it behaving the same way? Like, what's going on? And is it, how much people freaking out? And what's the panic around it? And is that contributing to the stories and what this could be?
I don't know. And we will probably never know.
I doubt it. One more shit to kick off in the UK, just not where we are.
Yeah, that'd be the only good thing if we lived in America. We'd have so much to explore. Although, bloody hell, we'd be able to afford to travel all around the place. We can't even afford to travel around here.
That's very true. No, I mean, I'm surprised there's not more stuff that comes at us from Wales, because Wales has got so much land just untouched, and so much forestry and hills and. But then I suppose you wouldn't hear it out here, would you? If you were, well, we wouldn't hear it in passing. But you never see any news stories of it or anything being covered. But
yeah, and then sometimes I think when I'm like go out on my bike down the Tarka Trail now, I see tons of like fields and that with sheep in it, and I'm like, that's like perfect place for like a Dogman to be. It can just come in and take
sheep
whatever.
Or two and just get home. Yeah.
Like, I'm sure eventually, you know. The farmer's going to be like, my sheep keep going missing, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So it would have to move on, but
you
never really hear about anything like that, do you? You just hear someone saying something cool.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing with Dogmen is it implies there's some intelligence, because you think every other big creature, like wolves or big cats or bears, you always see them drifting into like places where people are. Like they'll go for bins and they'll be wandering around towns and stuff like that. So if these Dogmen are out there, there's clearly some implication of intelligence, because they're not coming near people, because they seem to recognise if I do that, then there's a lot of heat that comes with it.
I've heard stories on there where they've actually come and like tried door handles and stuff.
It's like
because like when people have like tried to describe their hands, they say they're like a raccoon's hand. That's what they look like, but obviously just a massive version, so they've got like a normal-ish looking hand with claws thumbs, and stuff. So,
thumb claw, that'd be mad. But yeah, it is hard to picture and hard to imagine it. But whenever there's creatures throughout history that like myths and legends have existed for a long time and persist, it makes me think, what was the origin point of this thing? Because like I said, like bringing it back to what I said earlier with vampires and like other creatures that look human but aren't quite. What was it that ingrained in us that isn't right, and we need to be worried about that? Because as far as I know now, there's nothing that mimics people, but we do have a mechanism that says if it looks fucking human and it's not, get the hell away. Like you think zombies were terrified of that because they used to be human but they're not anymore. Vampires were absolutely terrified of that. Skinwalkers and mimics and fucking anything that exists and like copies humanity, we're terrified of it, more so than if you were to see if you were out at a camp, right, and you heard someone you know call your name but they weren't there, would that scare you more or would a bear, like hearing a bear like fucking roar in the distance, freak you out more? I think hearing the fucking person's voice that wasn't there would freak me out 10 times more. Yeah. But the threat should be more a fucking bear. But I don't know what it is. So where is the point where there is something behind it, but what is it? Were there like dog creatures that just got hunted out, or were like their territory has just disappeared off of people like expanding out?
Because I've even heard of some people thinking that they're like kind of government experiments, you know, where they've done like and because like there's been encounters where military have turned up and stuff like that. Yeah. So they're like, is it anything to do where they've? Yeah. Because they used to do that shit back in, even in the Second World War, like the Germans and that, didn't they? Started like transplanting heads on the bloody...
Germans were going mental. They had soldiers messed up on the battlefield. They were crazy.
So maybe
I mean,
some
I know,
weird
the
thing.
state in America they did fucking... I mean, I know of experiments where they would mess with people's like psyche and try and hypnotise people and use drugs to kind of convince people to do things. I know of that, but physical altering ones, who knows? Maybe there are mutants out there.
And there's even talk about whether there's some kind of extraterrestrial or spiritual aspect to Bigfoot and Dogman, because sometimes they can just kind of appear, you know, not appear right in front of your face, but like
they just keep popping up in humanity in different cultures.
And like they'll just, if you're in the area where they are, they can just seem to like come out of nowhere, and then they're in the area, and it's like, well, where did that come from? And like people will report
for a bit.
People report seeing like lights in the sky sometimes when there's like Bigfoot encounters, and so
I know I know it's going a bit off topic, but that cartoon, The Big Les Show, I watched that loads when I was younger. There's 3 Sasquatch characters in that, and one of them, Sassy, the main one, is kind of just like this all-known not even extraterrestrial, just sort of constantly everywhere at any time he feels like being, yet when you talk to him he's just sat there stoned all the time off his bonds. And so it does make me laugh that you say that they just sort of appear, because it makes me think of that. But yeah, no, maybe, I don't know. I do find it fascinating that it's a lot of different cultures have come up with the same idea of like a wolf, because you think in Norse and Germanic cultures it exists. I mean, for Scandinavian you can kind of say, well, they're a Germanic people, so if it starts in like the Germanic world and migrates across, that kind of makes sense. But then you look at the Native American culture, wolves are very persistent creatures out there, you know. What are the sort of creatures that are always persistent? There's like the legends like a thunderbird and all that stuff, like this giant eel and giant bird creatures. There's werewolves, and well, not werewolves, but wolves in general, and sort of like creatures like that. And then bears are probably somewhat relevant. I don't know enough, so I don't want to talk on it too much, but wolves are always persistent in the culture. I'm trying to think of other places.
They were proper paranoid about werewolves back in the day, weren't they? Because even like in the 1500s, they like you had the witch trials. You actually had werewolf trials where they'd execute people for being werewolves. And that one geezer is, what was his name? Was it Thomas Stumpf or something like that?
Oh, the German geezer was just a serial killer and claimed, what was it, that his belt could...
Yeah. And they proper like
went
done him. Like I think they like hung John, quartered him, and put his head on a spike in the...
They were like, you ain't coming back. Yeah. That's weird. I wonder whether they looked at it more like he had a possessed spirit and that allowed him to change.
Well, that's like the one I was telling you about, the South End werewolf. It was like, they think it was like an evil spirit, but like...
and it could change his form.
And they just get that Edlin very more, and apparently they have video of photographic evidence, but it's never been shown.
Apparently there was picture evidence of the Enfield hauntings, but you know. But that brought back a thought. That guy with his belt that could help him transform. What did that make me think of? That was it. That reminds me of Skyrim. Fucking the prisoner in but he's got the ring of Hircine and he can change with the ring. That makes me think of that. But no, I do wonder, what other cultures are like dogmen exist in? Is it in every culture, or is it like specific ones? Because when I think of periods of history, I can't say I've heard like the Roman world. I mean, well, the Greek world, obviously there's the stories of it in the mythologies, but like in that sort of East Asia and places like that, and the big empires and countries there.
The ones I mentioned there, like Brazil, Mexico, obviously USA, and
South American, North American. I mean, it could be said to say that a lot of the countries that these creatures are still being seen in, there's a lot of untouched land that, not necessarily uncharted land, but very much left alone.
Open and like out the way.
Yeah, and so all the other countries, maybe there could have been things like in the 1500s. Wasn't that Edward Stumpf, who was a German guy? And obviously Germany's known like the Black Forest, and it's still got a lot of nature and stuff.
That's supposed to be
by comparison now, it probably a lot of that's torn down, so you wouldn't see as much of it. And maybe if there is these like big creatures out there that need to be hunting big animals as well, their territory's just getting
well, they say America used to be near enough covered in trees until they cut most of them down. A lot of it may have been cut down and stuff. But then again, there's always parts of America that may not have been, because there's like, deserts and stuff out there. But yeah, no, I mean, it could. That may be why it's so prevalent out there. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of places that's still like Appalachia and all that. Like, say that? I think so. Do you get any shit out there? I feel there's a lot of stuff that kicks off out there, but that's a lot of Bigfoot that goes on out there. I remember actually watching that guy I follow on YouTube, the Outdoor Gear Review. He just does all like camping stuff and that. Yeah. And he had that one episode, like, because there's nothing weird or paranormal or anything like that on his channel. He's always like just testing out tents and camping and all this stuff. And then he had this one point where he was walking, but then you could hear footsteps walking with him, and he was like, "Can you hear that, guys?" You know, and then he stands still, and then you just, it sounds like bipedal, and then you just hear these footsteps walking, and he's like, and I'll give it to him, he's pretty brave, because he's like, I'm going to see if I can figure out where it's going, and he like follows in the direction it comes, but it like never saw anything, and then it just disappeared. And he's only on these paths, so there's not anywhere to go. So it must got to be like right around where he was.
Maybe it was an alien dog man that was invisible. Maybe that was like my situation when I was walking from King Arthur's and we were all sprinting and you just did from next to us. Maybe that was a dog man encounter, I just didn't realise it.
Imagine that,
That'd be terrifying. Because that's like, 10 minutes away from where we live. So I'd rather it be not there and somewhere else instead.
Well, that's probably a lot longer than that away, isn't it? If you were sprinting, because you freaked out, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah. When the old heart rate was up, it felt like a lifetime, but it's probably only that, I mean, maybe 20 minutes away, half an hour, depending on how slow or fast you walk.
I don't know. Yeah, it's all fascinating stuff. What else have I got here? Oh yeah, because even you've got like Anubis, the Egyptian god. Like, I know he's not a werewolf, but he's like a dog-headed or jackal-headed.
There is this weird thing in humanity where we seem to be terrified and equally intrigued by creatures that are like humans with animal heads, just all over the place. From gods back in the past, and even like, I know it's ancient aliens, so you've got to look at it and laugh a little bit. But they always go back and they're like, what if these were aliens or old gods that came back or that existed, and people looked at them and like worshipped them as deities, even though they're not? I don't know. There's just this fascination with things that are almost human but not. It's almost like we want there to be more things out there.
I wonder if it can always be one of those things where if people are thinking it enough, it could be thought into existence, you know?
Maybe that'd be a cool thing. If that's the case, I'm going to think 1 million subscribers into existence for us. No, I don't know. I had a train of thought there and it's just fucking left the station. It's gone.
It's gone.
That's going to irritate the shit out of me.
Have a think. We were talking about the old like gods and animal head.
I wonder whether, because I know earlier I was saying about how we have this mechanism to be terrified of stuff that looks like us. I don't know whether that's got something to do with like when people were evolving, if other species of humans that looked similar but were quite different would have been hostile, and that's where that comes from. But if that's the case, as we understand history, was there a lot more variations of what people look like that we aren't aware of, that tend to be more beast-like? I mean, obviously they wouldn't be canine-like, but fangs and more rounded nose, could that be something that exists in people's minds? And because now all we have are wolves, we kind of marry the two together and you get this creature that's kind of human, bipedal, but canine-like, and has all these qualities that we're terrified of.
I think there's so much that's happened in the past that we don't even know of, like, because when you think of history, like, unless you go back to, you know, like, we think you don't really think of anything like before Egypt and stuff like that, do you? You think like that kind of seems like near the beginning.
And that depends about what period of Egypt you talk about, because even if you go back like 3,000 years ago, the pyramids were already fucking built and old by that point as well. So how old does humanity go back to? I know it's like 20,000 years ago, and they're talking about like the first sort of big civilizations and the switch to agriculture instead of nomadic hunting gathering lifestyle. And then the current estimate, I think, for the sort of accepted norm of humanity is like 300,000 years,
something like that.
The best for our like for
modern article the other
humans.
day, and all saying human language has been around a lot longer than we think it has as well. And I was like,
yeah, I can feel a rabbit hole happening here, but I'm not going to stop it because I like this topic. So I absolutely bring to this, right? I every so often, because I'm obsessed with Neanderthals, I love them, and I've always thought they've had more capacity to exist. Well, not still, but like their existence is way more modern than we give them credit for. Because obviously, and so I go back to the articles on them and I read up on them every now and then to see how they changed. I remember the last time I looked up at them, which was a few years ago, was like they would say that they maybe had clothing and they maybe had like artistic sort of like expression to some degree, but that was about it. They didn't think they were capable of language. I went back like maybe a couple of weeks ago and read up on them, and they're talking about now they think that they were probably capable of language because they would have had to communicate with people. They were involved in various like stone and tool trades across Europe and Asia. They had art and spirituality and like most likely language and various things like that. I'm like, man, isn't it crazy to think that there are like languages that were spoke by people that weren't even like Homo sapien, modern anatomical humans? Blows my fucking mind. Yeah, so I'll close off that rabbit hole. I've had my little rant about that now. It's too cool.
Yeah, there's so many topics we could get into, and
yeah, we should. Well, I mean, we're going to open up more conspiracies on the channel anyway, because we've got some cool plans for conspiracy videos. But I would love to do some podcasts based around conspiracies.
Oh yeah.
But I wouldn't do just like a 5 conspiracies we have. I want to do like delve into specific ones.
And it's weird, isn't it? Like in this day, there's just so much information on the internet and that, but everyone seems so. I don't know what's the word, like not trapped, kind of trapped in this is what there is now, you know, and like
just fenced in. We've got a lane now. You know what it is? One of the best things I ever heard, and I think it really does stand true. It says, if you're given something for free, you're the product. And now you think all the information we've got, all the things we're told, free of charge, this is useful, have this. Where is that coming from? Where's the ulterior motive? Why is that? Why are you hiding Dogmen from me? Where are they? Oh, the Dogmen.
Yeah, I'm sure I was thinking of something like that the other day. It's like, I think that was another one of my conspiracy fears that just popped into my head. I tend to get them sometimes, like the one with the cameras and that. And then this latest one, I was thinking, because there's a lot of talk about AI at the moment. I'm like thinking, is that something they're bringing about now? Because then, you know, no matter what anyone says they've seen or that, it can just be like blowing off.
There you go. AI.
It'd be like, that was AI.
They take away your ability to question. First, they made people look like wackos and nut jobs for years, which some of them are, and then they take away your ability to be able to prove it, even if you have.
Because now they can be like, that's just AI generated.
Because we've talked about that a couple of times in different Reacts videos where we've had that conversation where it's like we can't, like this paranormal world where you can videotape something is just gone now because it can be generated. Yeah,
and I was watching one of the AI generated video things the other day, and it was like, Jesus, you know, you wouldn't be able to tell it from reality. It's like, oh my god, that's mental. But it's scary in a way and all, because how they can get people's voices and just record someone's voice and put it.
Train it on that.
And then so someone could just set someone up for something. Like you wouldn't,
if they haven't been already.
Yeah. And then how would you disprove it? So.
The way the world has worked for easily the last 50 to 100 years, it's gone now. It's just done. Which is going to be what life is like in the next even 20 years. I reckon it'll be completely different. I reckon people are saying like they don't think it'll be a social norm to have jobs. We'll work on a social credit system. We'll just exist that way. But that is definitely stuff we should say for another podcast. How the world is going.
I think even when I was born in '77, how things were when I was young, and how different they are nowadays. It's like, Jesus.
Shit, I can think about what life was like when I, like, in the first few years of my life, even before, like, people were going everywhere with fucking phones and smartphones and shit. I remember the jump from fucking Nokia bricks to smartphones and what that did. That was mad enough, so I can't even begin to imagine how.
I think my first experience of a smartphone was when I was in America.
Yeah. But I got my first smartphone at 15, I think, and that's late. Because most people have one at 9 or 10. Man,
crazy. I don't think I've got any more notes really here about Dogman. Apart from the only one I've got left is, where is it? The first modern documented Dogman encounter happened in 1887 in Wexford County, Michigan, where two lumberjacks reported seeing a creature they described as having a man's body but a dog's head.
I laughed. It was just some nutter who's just carved up a wolf and has been running around with its head on his fucking shoulders.
Yeah, so that's my only exception to a Dogman. It would be a skinwalker, because I've often seen them depicted as a wolf type creature.
Yeah.
And that's actually like, well, a witch it is, isn't it? Really,
Yeah,
a
shapeshifter
skinwalker.
and stuff. Yeah. But then even with skinwalkers and stuff, there's this same spiritual component where it's not, where there is a physical transformation, but at the same time it's also very like in spirit as well, made physical somehow. That's what fascinates me about it. How much of that, and we tend to think of the two as entirely separate. It's like, oh, either it's a spirit thing or it's a physical thing, but why are the two not put together? Maybe the conspiracy, maybe they're dividing our spiritual like thinking with our logical and physical thinking, so we can't put the two together and explore that idea.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any native elders out there that would ever know about it, because well, they probably are, but most of them probably died off now, haven't they, really? But I know you can't really go and speak to them because they won't talk about it. It's like kind of a taboo thing.
I mean, I'm sure I'd love to speak to people from different tribes and see their different perspectives, because obviously every different tribe's got their own like spirituality and mentality and way of looking at it and their view on it. And then at the same time, I'd love to look back at someone who's like an expert on Germanic folklore and history and what their view of this sort of thing would be, because it does strike me as kind of strange that people on the opposite side of the globe have these similar creatures. Like, I know there's been contact between the two cultures over time, and there are practices that have sort of come across, because if you look at Norse culture and Germanic culture, there is like shamanistic practices and stuff which probably come over and mix from there, but have divulged and developed their own way. But then maybe they were there before, I really don't know. But it makes me think like either people have been in contact before or they've encountered similar things for them to have come across the same idea.
Kind of like what you were saying earlier, where did it come from? These things have got to have come from somewhere.
Yeah,
or
and
like
if they've
even
evolved
the idea
alongside us,
of it.
how? And I mean, I know people say, oh, like they don't exist out there, and you don't find bones, you don't find this, you don't find that. Dinosaurs. Like, we found a lot of bones and stuff, but we've never found one knocking about. So how are we so certain that they were a thing? And it's like, sometimes you're not going to find the perfect remains, or you're not going to have the perfect sighting, but that doesn't mean that it's not out there, and it couldn't be out there existing in some capacity.
And if there is, it's obviously a very small population scattered around, because you hardly ever see anything of them.
Oh, exactly. Well, it could be being hunted, well, not hunted, but it could just be dying out because the big game in the forest and the environment just isn't there anymore. The habitat's breaking down, you don't know. And if it's smart, I mean, I don't find it strange to think there would have been creatures that would have evolved with intelligence around enough to be able to avoid things that that aren't good for them. Like, if it's a creature like that and they're going, right, well, if I'm near people tend to group together, or if I scare one person, more people come back. So it knows if it gets seen, it's not going to hang about. It's just got to get out of there, because it knows that's it now. That place is compromised and it has to hide. Which is why maybe if it is out there, it tends to intimidate people more than attack them, because if someone can think that there's other dangers out there, bears and whatever, and we can be misled, we'll just get out of there and they can keep their space.
I'd love to actually meet someone that's had an encounter, maybe even got some photos or something, because I know there's so many people out there just make shit, like, they might not even make it up as in like trying to actually lie to you, but they may just be like
in panic. They may just remember it differently, or
you know. And I was watching Casper Site last night, and there was this woman, this woman on there because it was talking about she's got evidence of these 10-foot aliens, and she's got all this photo and Ring doorbell evidence and stuff like that. And I was just looking at it, and I'm thinking that's just like pareidolia and stuff. I'm like. And I even see it a lot on Facebook, people like putting a picture of an orb or like it's lens flare or something, and they're like, guys, what's this? This was like near my friend when I took this photo, and I'm like, seriously? There's so I don't want to say uneducated, but there's so many people that instantly jump to something paranormal or that just because of
people, if you want something to be real, you're going to find the things that confirm it being real rather than logically analyse what's going on here and what's happening.
Yeah.
And I mean, it depends, because like when we go out on investigations, we've got these devices that kick off and this. And yeah, we try and explore, is there electrical interference, whatever. But there's kind of, we both operate on our own, not imagination, but our own imagined version of what we think it could be. So we're interacting with it through that lens. So in some way, I imagine it's a bit like that. If people go out and they're thinking, these are the creatures that I think are out here, suddenly the things that kick off are going to be, oh, but that could be that, and that could be that. They're not going, oh, that could be fucking Optimus Prime out there, because they're not thinking that it is. And so there is that confirmation bias to some degree.
Yeah, like when you took photos and stuff, and then you say, see that Bigfoot just there, and you can clearly tell it's just like a darker shade in the tree. It's like, why would you
can see the Dogman just look a little bit left of the Bigfoot.
Yeah, I'd feel embarrassed to like show people that and say, look, can you see the Bigfoot in there? I'd be like, people think I was freaking nuts or something.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you do see these people though, and they are absolutely fucking mental. Like, not as in we're trying to make them look crazy. Like they look like they're not putting milk with a cereal. They're just a bit not quite with it. You know what I mean? There are some characters out there, and funnily enough, a lot of the places where this stuff kicks off, they are a bit. There's the perception that they're a bit behind all this and things going wrong with it. I don't know, but maybe that leads back to government experiments. Maybe the people they're putting shit in the water and it's making people lose it. And now they're seeing stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, well, because there was that incident bloody years ago, wasn't there, where people, I don't know if it was just in a village, went fucking crazy for a while, and it was something to do with something in the wheat. So the bread they were eating, I don't know if it was like some
mould in the wheat.
And it like. It sent them off their rockers for a while, and they're all seeing and experiencing weird stuff. So there could be things like that going on.
There is loads of weird shit in history. Like there was that one time where a village just randomly danced. The whole village just went out and was dancing about, and they just danced until they all collapsed and died. That was a thing.
I've not heard of that one.
Yeah. So weird shit does happen all the time, and there's probably chemicals and weird hallucinogenic qualities and things people could experience, but who knows? I wonder if, imagine if people have gone out into the forest and these low, like, tones they're hearing, like, vibrating through them, whether they've been government gassed by some psychedelic hallucinogen, and then the low tones are, like, freaking them out and they're being suggested as to what this thing could be, just as an experiment.
After we spoke about it the other day, though, I'm very intrigued to try some different devices or something to see if we can pick up any like different, like electronic interference. Because I know, like, what's the other one? Not the K2 meter. There's another one you can get, and it picks up more. It don't pick up electrical disturbances, as in that would come from your equipment, and that it'll pick up disturbances from the environment.
Right. Okay.
But they're expensive. I think they're like 180 quid for a
We need to just find some voice recorders from like 1970.
Yeah, I want to try that and stuff like that to see if
what sort of things come through and how it comes through. Yeah, that would be intriguing
to
see what you can get.
At the end of the day, we don't do a whole lot of EVP stuff anyway.
No.
So.
And obviously we're so focused on like the ghostly side of the paranormal be interested to see if we would go out and experiment and try and find creatures of the night or weird happenings.
Or if there was more sightings around here, I'd
We could
definitely want to go and explore.
Maybe in the future, when we reach some goals, we can go out and do specials where we camp in the woods for a night in specific areas and see if we can use equipment to find creatures.
Because I'm sure on Dartmoor there might be some stories.
Dartmoor was scary, man. That was a place where I was walking through it and I was going, oh yeah, people die here, shit. Like, you're walking through that going, fuck.
It's like that time I camped there on my own, I didn't think nothing of it, you know, because I was like just out camping that. But if you was out there and you're trying to look for paranormal or unexplained stuff, then you know you're not going to be sleeping good that night.
True. That was, going out there was crazy. It was a fun experience, I enjoyed it. But I tell you what between the woman shouting at us for shining a torch over there, that was like a...
Yeah, might just calm down.
And that was one of those nights where there was no like ambient light from moonlight or stars or anything. It was like cloud had come in and it was like you're not having fun tonight.
Yeah, when you turned your torch off and looked, it was you just like you was looking here, but in pitch blackness, you couldn't see anything that was off in front of you.
That was fucking terrifying. And it was like that mist was coming in. I'm just grateful it weren't crazy windy because that would have been a fucking nightmare to be in.
But yeah, like G said, I'd love to go there in the day so you get a proper feel of what it looks like.
Yeah, investigate in the day just to see what sort of things you capture because that's an interesting spot. We might have to do that at some point.
Yeah, probably
a day investigation. Our first ever day investigation as well, that'd be.
Yeah, I know we did do like the lint and werewolf thing. That was kind of in the day, but that
wasn't like a paranormal investigation. This is. Like, I would love to do a full blown like paranormal investigation like we would do at night, but in the day.
Maybe that's our thing. We'll catch loads of stuff in the day and never anything at night.
Fucking typical, isn't it? Go in the Lenwood Centre and then you just see people like, shadows popping over.
Things flying across the room and stuff.
Shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dogmen, I think that about wraps up. We've been filming for about an hour now.
Yeah, I've got nothing else for you because we'll just start going on to other stuff.
Yeah, I think we already have. We've already drifted into that territory. But there you go, folks. Dogmen, cryptids, various creatures. We didn't do any Bigfoots because we've had our react on them. We should do a deep dive into Bigfoot. Well, that's one thing we could do. We could do a podcast on loads of different cryptids and stuff, but like proper deep dive into cases of it and conspiracies around it. I think that'd be a good one. What do you guys think? Do you want to see that? Do you want to see us do? It wouldn't necessarily be like a case file where we go and make it dramatic. It'd just be us chatting shit for about this thing, things we think Google said, and apparently some person said this. So please, when you watch this, don't take it like word for word seriously. We're not like, I don't want people to think that we're like sharing misinformation. This is just, we've got opinions and we think we heard this and I read this somewhere. There's no like backed up. This is just our take on things.
Yeah, it's literally just us, you know, chatting to each other, sharing our thoughts and opinions on what we've heard.
If we weren't doing it here on the camera, we'd be doing it downstairs in the living room when one of us is going past to get food or something. This. That's literally how we came up with the next like case file that we're doing. I said, I heard of this, and I'm quite fascinated, and you went, that's quite cool. And now we're doing a video on it, and that's how these things work. But if you guys want to see more conspiracies or any drift out of the realm of like spirits and stuff and more into this side of the paranormal, we'd love to do it. Just let us know what you want to see, and if you've had any encounters or you want to share some stories, you can. We have an email that you can message us on that I'll put up on the screen, and you can also leave comments and stuff. And if we like the things that we hear, we might get you on for a little chat and then see what we can talk about and what we can discover. But with all that said, I think I'll cut it off here because I don't want to ramble on too much longer. Check out all of our other links, all of our other playlists. I'll stick an iCard up there. We've got multiple different playlists. We have a React playlist where we look at some creepy stuff from across the internet, some of the best things it has to offer. We have our investigations playlist where we go out and explore locations for ourselves. We have our case files playlist where we take a more in-depth look at paranormal happenings and occasions, events, creatures, so on and so forth. The podcast now, which this is our second episode. And thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.